Mexico. Spent 3 nights, right, Ben? And went and explored White Sands National Park, which was pretty awesome. We got to play in the sand, and even Cash got to go and play in the sand, and it was pretty neat seeing all the, just the white sand in the middle of the desert and mountains. It was amazing. And I guess it's only one of 3. What type of sand is it again? Oh shoot. Now I can't remember the name of the sand. Anyway, only one of 3. Yeah, one of 3 gypsum sand dunes in the world. So it was pretty neat. And then we went and explored
Billy the Kids.
Oh man. Masilla. Right? We explored Masilla, which is where Billy the Kid stood trial for murder, and was sentenced. By hanging. And anyway, we went into this little store, and that actually used to be the courthouse where he actually was tried. So pretty neat little town. Anyway, this is our view for the morning, coming up on some mountains, and just kind of trekking east. So if we do anything fun in Texas, as you know, we will keep you posted. Did you have anything to say this morning? But wishing you all a blessed day, and we'll be in touch. Bye. It's a little breezy here in Fort Stockton, Texas. Tom says that's probably about a, what'd you say, 40-mile-an-hour flag?
45, 50-mile-an-hour flag. And they can stick out like that.
But it sure looks beautiful waving. at Tom. He's like, don't ask me. Monday, November 4th, and we are on I-95 South, headed towards home, Melbourne, Florida. I think we got like, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours to go?
2.5 hours on it.
Yeah. And we left Alabama yesterday. We had stopped and had a wonderful visit with our son and our daughter-in-law. And so yeah, this is the end of the adventure to Alaska. This will be our last video. As you can hear my voice a little bit, I did pick up another cold. My Bubba was a little sick, so he shared his germs with me, but I am on the mend, so but I guess before we sign off here, and thank y'all for joining us on this fantastic 6-month trip, you know, I just kind of wanted to reflect on a few things. You know, there were things on the trip that they should not have gone wrong, but they did go wrong. And then there were things on the trip that could have gone wrong, or should have gone wrong, and they didn't. So I wanted to reflect on some of those blessings, and even blessings that happened before we left for our trip. You know, before we departed for the 6-month trip, we had helped our son and daughter-in-law move into their new house in Alabama. And so when we were leaving, we were heading down I-65 South, and we nailed a water jug in the middle of the road. Well, that broke our hydraulic lines. And so when Tom and our son Tyler got to crawling around under the hydraulic lines, or under the RV, that's when they noticed pretty much all of the hydraulic lines were like crumbling apart, right, Ben? So they ended up, and it was an expense we weren't expecting, but nonetheless, they ended up replacing all the hydraulic lines, and what?
For the leveling jack.
Oh, for the leveling jacks. Yeah, let me be clear on that.
Well, we found out before the trip, so that was a blessing.
Yeah, we found out before the trip, which was fantastic, because it would have really stunk if we had gotten like into the Yukon where there's hardly anything, and then now we've got an issue with the leveling jack hydraulics, because you might say, okay, fine, you just can't level your vehicle. Well, that poses other issues, because you really shouldn't put your slides out either. If you can't level, and if you can't put those out and all your clothes are put away, then you can't get to your clothes either. So it's just kind of, it becomes a complicated factor. It's not a big deal for like a day or two, but eventually you're going to want to change of clothes or whatever. So that was kind of the first thing. Then, sorry, I just ate a sandwich, so I keep feeling like I got food in my teeth. The next thing was tires. We replaced our tires, and once again, it was like the day before we were supposed to leave, right, honey? The day before we were supposed to leave, we had, and the day before that, we had gotten the RV back with new tires on it. Well, next thing you know, there's a flat on the brand new tire. Well, it turned out that I guess the seal didn't take.
Valve stem.
The
new
valve.
valve stem was leaking.
Yeah, so the new valve stem was leaking.
We just had to tighten it up.
So they just had to tighten it up, and we were golden. But had we not noticed that, or had it been a little bit slower of a leak, again, you know, just another setback that could have happened but didn't happen. But nonetheless, Tom removed the tire, took it back to the tire shop that did the tires, and they fixed it, and we were good to go.
But when we removed the tire, I couldn't get the lug nuts off because they tightened them up too much. So I also learned that I needed a cheater wrench to bring with me in case I need to take the tire and change the tire on the road. So there's actually a couple positive things happened there. I made sure I had the proper tools so I could replace the tire, and our tires were good for the tire trip.
Yeah. Did we ever have to help anyone else with that, or use that for anyone else? No? I wasn't sure. I thought you and Phil had changed his oil and used something to do it with. And then, of course, the next thing, you know, was the transmission and the truck. You know, what should not have happened did happen. But as you know, everything turned out just fine. You know, although we had to kind of make a trip back, or Tom had to make a trip back to get it, enough time went by and the warranty worked out. Excuse me, we were blessed to have travel partners, because excuse me, you know, even though we were out of truck for a while, you know, we had Phil and Michelle to, you know, help us out and to dink around with, so it all worked out. So it was a blessing, and we were just thankful for their company and their support. What was the other thing? We were in Jackson Hole, and we had that huge microburst that happened and made the campground look like a tornado had literally gone through it. But you know, there was no damage to our rig. There was no damage to Phil and Michelle's rig. A tree actually fell right by Phil and Michelle's rig, but it never touched theirs. So again, we were protected and we were blessed, when it could have been a whole lot worse. We had a snowstorm in West Yellowstone, of all things, in the middle of summer.
And a windstorm.
Yeah, and a big windstorm that came through like the day before, you know, almost like, you know, the wind before this cold front. And
We should have lost our canopy.
should have lost our canopy. I mean, we had it staked down, but with the way the wind was blowing, it is surprising that we didn't lose it, or that it didn't get super warped. Unfortunately, another camper, you know, did end up with some damage to their canopy, even though we tried to get it staked down for them. But yeah, we were very fortunate, and the snowstorm, you know, we were due to depart, but sure enough, we left, and it had snowed, but the roads were clear.
Trees were covered.
But the trees were covered, and it was absolutely beautiful. Right, Ben? Then we got up to Glacier. Excuse me. Actually, we are on our way to West Glacier, and I noticed as we were getting close, like our internet had gone out, our Starlink, which was very strange because Starlink had been, awesome the whole way. So we pulled off, and first, Tom climbs up on the roof to make sure there's no damage to our dish or anything, and nothing's going on. So now we get to the campsite. Well, now I realize that other outlets also weren't working. Excuse me, this darn cold. So, turns out we have certain outlets in the RV that are only powered by the inverter, but that also gives us a benefit of being able to go down the road and have like my laptop charging, or the TV running, or things like that. So anyway, yeah, the TV will run.
Yeah, we can't watch the TV when we're going out.
Well, I know, but if we have company in the RV, the TV runs. Anyway, so anyway, Tom was like, well, crap, something must be wrong with the inverter. So at first he started to kind of troubleshoot it a little bit, and then we called like a, RV handyman guy, and he kind of had some ideas, and then Phil has a friend. You remember what his name was? Yeah, not off the top of our heads. But anyway, so Phil called his friend and basically gave you the fix, or
Give me things to try. Give me some things to try, and there was actually a ground fault outlet that was part of the inverter, so I had to bypass that to get it working. So I wasn't too worried about bypassing the ground fault breaker, because the entire circuit's already covered by a breaker and a breaker panel. So that happened and got everything fixed the same day.
yeah. So again, even though you're like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with the inverter, we were very fortunate that we didn't have to replace the inverter. We didn't have, excuse me, or rewire anything to a different outlet, or Tom just went down, did his magic on the inverter, and we haven't had an issue since with it, which has been fantastic. Let's see, I made notes along as we went, because it was just kind of amazing how we every challenge turned into a blessing, and so it was important to share. Oh, so now we're going through the Yukon, and we get a phone call from a campground that we had reservations at, and they were like, hey, we have to cancel because we had a flood in the campground. So we were like, oh great, now what are we gonna do? And so we checked at this other campground in town. That was in, do you remember where that was?
Is that White Horse?
No. Anyway, I don't guess it's important.
Johnson's.
No. Anyway, well, that particular campground, they said, nope, we're all full too, even though there was nobody there. But apparently they host, what do you call them, like convoys that come through the RV tours. So they were all booked up for the night. Well, I ended up looking up this provincial park that we had passed, and as luck would have it, they had a couple spots. So we went and stayed there. Well, it turned out to be a beautiful campground. tons of lush trees, free firewood. I mean, there were no hookups at all. You know, no water, no sewer, no nothing. But it was a beautiful campground. So, again, even though it was canceled, not a big deal. We found something that turned out to be even more beautiful. And we learned it was more beautiful because we decided we wanted to take a ride to that campground that we had reservations just to see, okay, well, what are we missing anyway? Well, I mean, yeah, there's places that are rugged in the Yukon, but this place was really rugged. Not to sound snooty but I mean, it was. We were thankful for the cancellation. Let's just leave it at that. So, again, it was a blessing. Let's see. Then we had the scare again in Whitehorse on the truck. We had 2 different truck errors go off, but they both cleared. Excuse me. And, you know, and since then, this was on our return, obviously, in Whitehorse when those errors went off. But since then, we haven't had any more errors. Okay, sorry about that. Our battery died. Try and be a little quicker, but we just wanted to continue sharing, you know, the things that we felt were just blessings. We had that washout on the road when we left. I think it was Johnson Crossings, and literally, like within hours of us going across that road washout, they shut the highway down. So that was a blessing, because had we had to detour, that would have put a significant wrench in our schedule, along with all the reservations we had. So that was a huge blessing, let alone just making it to our destination that day, because as you saw in the video that we spoke about before, like, it was pretty scary. You know, I had fallen on the stairs at the hot springs and could have really hurt my foot, but luckily, you know, with some tender loving care on it, it healed up. I mean, it still has like a weird sensation in it, but overall, I mean, obviously nothing was broken, so yeah, no issues there. We got a couple rock chips in our windshield, but amazingly, they have not spread. Like, we kept debating, like, oh man, should we get it fixed? Should we not get it fixed? Should we get it fixed? But they have not spread, and they've held, so we've just continued on the journey without any worry on fixing the windshield. I mean, I'm sure we'll probably have it fixed now, right, Ben? But, you know, our family and our home went through a hurricane while we were gone, but, you know, again, thanks be to God, there was no damage. You know, we had a palm frond down and a screen out, so, from our pool enclosure, so, you know, that's amazing. And again, our hearts go out to those who were not so but they didn't fall off. We caught it in time to pull off the road.
Thankfully, I had the right tool to
Yeah, we were able to pull off and fix it, and now they've held strong since then. And we even went back through that road and they held, so that's awesome. We had the booking issue with the ferry, but we still managed to get on the ferry, even though we had to, drive on separate. I mean, at first it was a little scary because they were like, well, we worry about, re-ticketing, because then if there's a wait list, then it can mess up and push you out of the system and blah, blah, blah. So it was a little intimidating rebooking, but everything turned out just perfectly.
And we saved money
On that, yeah. We ended up getting some money back. COVID happened, but again, we feel like it was a blessing because we planned time down, both at Whidbey and at Fort Lewis McCord area. So while we didn't get to go and explore and do everything that we had wanted to do, we were able to rest and heal. Sorry. Obviously, you've learned my face by now to know that there's traffic merging, and people just kind of mosey and take their time instead of, like, if you're gonna pull in front of a big old RV, put the pedal to the metal and go. So yeah, COVID, it was not fun going through it, but we were blessed for when it happened, because we had time to heal. The other thing was, I guess just overall, I can't really think of many more things, but the biggest blessing was this trip. At first Tom and I kind of questioned, should we even be going on this trip? Could our hearts and talents, and gifts be used in other ways? And so it was a little bit of a struggle. We almost felt like a little selfish taking 6 months to go off and do, and with so much going on. But the reality is this trip has really blessed us because one, we've grown closer together, but closer together in our faith, and given us time to study scripture more and grow in our relationship with God. But it gave us an opportunity to help, people if we were visiting and there was something they needed done or whatever, then, plus it gave us the opportunity to be able to visit family and, all over, whether it was Montana, California, Alabama, friends. We got to visit with several friends we hadn't seen in a long time. Anyway, there were a couple of things that happened along the way that made us begin to wonder, should we go home? My mom ended up in the hospital. Phil and Michelle had a lightning strike that caused some damage to their house. Phil's mom had some challenges. My son hurt his foot. There were definitely things that happened that made us question, should we continue on or should we turn around? But, through just prayer and fellowship, we learned that be more in the future. We already are plotting out what we're doing for next year, so if we do some more fun and exciting things along the way, we'll probably tune back in. But we do hope you've enjoyed traveling with us from Florida all the way to Alaska and all the way back to Florida, and we pray that